Allah created woman for man, and He created man for woman. A man without a woman is like the day without night. A woman without a man is like the night without a day. Without the day. They are inseparable. They need each other. And in turning to woman, a man is turning to what Allah has ordained, the way of life which is natural. So they launched a crusade, and they came up with this new philosophy, anti-fitra philosophy, that to turn to God, you must turn away from woman. So Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi became Mahatma Gandhi when at the age of 55, it must have been perhaps on a Sunday morning, he informed his wife no more sexual relations. What? Because he wants to turn to God. So he had to turn away from her. So now he became a brahmacharya, a man who has raised his spiritual status to the highest rank by turning away from woman. Celibacy never came to the Byzantine church. It came to Rome. So there is evidence of the war on fitra.
The Byzantine priest, they can marry.
Do you have any other lessons from the floor?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sharaf. One question. As a Muslim, we are living in this period when this crusade is being declared upon us. So what would be the best response for a Muslim united against this common enemy?
Can you back away from the mic a little bit, I think?
Our response to this war or this crusade that's been triggered upon us. Well, as a Muslim living in this period, there's this crusade being triggered after 9/11. Yes?
Yes.
So now it's 11 years after. What can we do as Muslims to unite to respond against this anti-fitra crusade? We know they're using media, they're using a lot of tools and techniques to get into our mind and control it, and as you said, kill the free will. So how do we defend ourselves, and perhaps how do we attack this enemy?
Well, I think we both have to answer that. From my perspective, one of the best defenses is knowledge. You see, ignorance is an enemy, and ignorance only helps the Crusaders. They depend upon your ignorance, which is why they prosecute the war of propaganda and the cultural wars against all of mankind. Again, you'll notice that, this is not necessarily something that China does. I mean, China, they have their own movie industry, but they don't have a propaganda ministry that is external. It's more internal. They're concerned about internal control. The West, the Crusaders, are concerned about external control of everyone's minds. So you need to protect yourself against that propaganda, and in order to do that, there's certain things that you have to do. First, you have to inform yourself, and you have to well, one of the things I did, because I could not protect myself against it, is I just got rid of the television. You see, I threw it out 15, 16 years ago, and I don't have one in my house. And when I had children with me, they never watched it because it is altered to shaitan. And I don't see how you can use that instrument, you know, effectively in the service of Allah under His particular present auspices, because these auspices are not auspices that are seeking to follow the Sunnah. If it was in fact, I mean, if you, for example, if you had a board of censors in this country that were really following the Sunnah, your programming would be completely different than what it is. Instead, you got the stringed instruments and the half-naked women on the television all the time. And in between, they throw in some you know, well-dressed mullahs and some nicely dressed Muslimas to make everything kind of balanced. They're doing the Freemasonic balance game. They're balancing the good with the evil, you see. But this is not the Sunnah. The Sunnah does not say you balance the good with the evil. No, you get rid of the evil and you promote what is good. So I got rid of the television. I don't see how anybody who calls himself a Muslim has a television in their house. I think they've got a problem with God. You know, I'm going to say that quite frankly. This is my opinion. So how to counteract this? Why? Because the television is one of the main means of the propaganda. And it happens not just with the mainstream programming, it happens with the commercials and the symbolism that's used in the commercials. All of these are anti-fitra. Now, another thing that I would do, or I have done myself, is I don't read the newspapers anymore, you see, because they're not helpful, and they're filled with propaganda. I mean, you look at the newspaper here, and you get some little bit of bad news here, but everything's telling you about, you know, how good the party really is, you see. And we all know that that's a lie. Anybody who's read the history of this country or any other country pretending to be Muslim, because they're all pretending to be Muslim, knows that their political parties are filled with liars. And so I just don't, and their papers are controlled and owned by the liars, you see. So I don't read the papers anymore unless I want to know what the liars are doing. The only reason I read the paper is to find out what the latest lie is. You see, that's what I do. Is this going on television? Anyway, so whoever's going to, somebody's going to interview me for TV, so be careful. Because this is, you know, I'm answering you honestly as I can. And again, I hand this over to the Sheikh to answer this question because it's a very important question. And I have done my own preparation to the degree that Allah has permitted me to do so. If you look at the Christians in America, you look at the population, 80% of the population is in the cities. The rest of the country is almost barren of people. And that's a big land, okay? So, and that you can say that we're just about most of the world, most of the quote, unquote, civilized world. Most of the people living in cities. And the Prophet said, when you see all of these signs, go and live like the Bedouin. That means get out of the city. And so I have some place to retreat. Fortunately, praise Allah for my wife. I have some place to go in northern Thailand if I have to. Okay, if I have enough petrol in the car, I can still drive up there. We had a little place in a small village in the country where everything's pretty fit. You know, as far as I mean, Thais are really good people. I found Thai Buddhists are better Muslims than most Muslims I've met. You know, and I hate to say that, but it's the truth. Their communities are clean. You don't find litter and rubbish and trash. I've seen Muslims go to Friday prayer and do wudu in a putrefied pond. You know that with filthy water. And they think that this is pleasing to Allah. A Buddhist would never do something like that. You know, so I have a place to go where people are still living off the land, and I'm one of the few Muslims in the village. So that, you know, when I walk down the street, the monk meets me and says, you're a Muslim, but you're a white man. How can you feel Muslim? They don't know, that's how much they don't know about Islam. You see.
I will just make one comment now and save the rest for my presentation, and that be, I believe that you cannot succeed in responding to the universal crusades without clarity of thought. That's all for now. When it comes to my presentation, I'll take it up here.
Okay, I think we will have another 2 Q&A sessions after the next 2 sessions. This now has, sorry? Oh, one question.
I don't really have.
Last one.
Just a quick one. There is a Surah Al-Rum in the Quran, and Allah talks about how He gave them the power to conquer, and He also talks about He determines who is victorious and who's not. So I'd like to understand how that relates with what Dr. Omar just said about all this symbolism and the acts that you mentioned, the Khalid and whatever, which is related to Romanian culture. I mean, how is that reconciled? On the one hand, Allah says He gave power to Rome, and now you're saying is the Roman influence that's creating all this information.
The Quran says, غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ. The Rome was conquered, defeated, but that within a few years' time, Rome will reverse the outcome, and Rome will then conquer. The Quran is referring to the wars between the Byzantine Christian Empire and the Persian, which was pagan. So at the time when the Quran was revealed, Rome was Byzantium, a Christian empire. And this revelation came down to give a message of hope to the Muslims in Mecca, because it was the Christian religion against the pagan Persian religion. And the Quraysh in Mecca was supporting the pagan one, whereas this Christian one had Jesus, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, had the Injil and things that we knew about and we shared with them. Rome is also in the Hadith, in which the Prophet said alayhi salatu wasalam, that you will make an alliance with Rome. Okay? That is a crucially important hadith. The hadith also goes on to say that there is going to be conflict between the Christians and the Muslims after their alliance, but eventually the Muslims are going to be victorious. But it begins with an alliance with Rome. The question we now have to ask is, where is Rome located today? I mentioned earlier that Rome began in Italy, a pagan empire. And then Constantine became Christian. Was it in the 4th century? 4th century. And then Constantine, for reasons that Dr. Omar Zaid would know better than me, took the capital of Rome from Italy to Constantinople. And the city then became named after him, Constantinople. And that was ruled when the Quran was revealed. And then the Ottoman, they call themselves Islamic Empire. Increasingly putting a question mark behind that. The Ottomans took over Constantinople and stuck a pretty long dagger into the heart of Rome that is still bleeding to this day. And then Rome went to Moscow. That's where Rome is today, Moscow. And if you are going to make an alliance with Rome, for me, my interpretation is that the Muslim world, that part which still has its Qibla in Makkah, another one that has its Qibla in Washington, that part is going to make an alliance with Russia. That's enough for now.
I will have to give this repositioning, this metaphysical and physical repositioning more thought and even more research now that I've discussed this with Sheikh, because there are things which are left unanswered that we do not know. We do know that the Eastern Orthodox Church is quite different than the Roman Church. They were not, today's Eastern Orthodox Church is not what was practiced at the time of Nabi Muhammad. He's not at all, nothing like that. But they were composed of Christians who did not believe that Jesus was God, for the most part. So it was a different branch of Christianity, and it was one that the Roman Empire had rejected. Now Constantine actually wanted to adopt this particular version, but he met too much political opposition amongst the various bishops who were all adopting this position, that Jesus was also the Son of God. So he said, okay, we'll make a new God here. We'll take Jesus from Britain, and we'll take Christos from India. We'll bring this Persian and this Druid God together here, and we've got ourselves a new God. Now, this was something that I discussed in my presentation that the Romans always did. The Eastern Orthodox Roman Church never did anything like this, and those Christians were composed initially of what was left of the original Jamesian Church in Jerusalem, which has dwindled down to almost next to nothing. And by now they have been infiltrated by various occult influences, not least of which is Jesuit and the Jewish Kabbalistic influence. And yes, they still have some tenets there. But what we're talking about when we're talking about Eastern Orthodox Romanism, we're talking about a spirit of Vitra that is still there, that is being extinguished in the West, in Europe. In other words, yes, the good Russian, they drink, but there's something about them that has never yet abandoned their Vitra to the same extent that it is being abandoned in Europe and in America now. There's something still preserved, which Allah has preserved in the Eastern Church and in the Eastern peoples. Okay, they don't have this imperialistic streak. For example, Russia is not interested in conquering other lands as much as she's interested in protecting what she has, you see. So there's this maternal instinct, that's why they say Mother Russia, you see. There's this maternal instinct there, which is an expression of Vitra, which is still there, which I think that we need to consider this, when we consider this alliance that is spoken of in the Hadith. I have to give this much more thought. Okay. Any other questions, or shall we proceed?
I think Okay, I think we've reached time for the break, so we will take a break until 10:50, and we will resume on the dot, at 10:20, well, about 15 minutes. Okay. 15 minutes, and please help yourself with food at the back. Thank you.